And I'll go back to my introduction, which was that I had are we recorded now?
Yes, you're recording.
Okay, my concern has been.
Want to open your meeting first? I know it's
yes. This is the April, what day is today? 27th. General Service and Administration Committee meeting at 11 o'clock. It's actually now 11:05 a.m. And I have been trying to coordinate.
Let's call it, make sure you have a quorum, call the roll.
I didn't think we officially called the roll.
Well, we normally do on for the committee meetings because you always want to make sure you have at least two.
Well, Councilor Smith, you're here, yes?
Yay.
Councilor Martin?
I'm here, Ms. Blowiak. I'm here.
Wonderful. So as I was trying to say before we were officially signed in, that I had been pleased when I listened to the State of the City address by Cleveland Mayor Bibb, that they also addressed this issue. They were having concerns about the lack of coordination between water or infrastructure repairs and street repairs. And therefore there was a considerable waste when a road was repaired, and then shortly thereafter the water infrastructure was repaired, and then the street needed to be repaired again. And that was brought up in that meeting. Cleveland Mayor Bibb had said he would address it. And they also noted that there was a city, and I don't have the name in front, but that was combining two departments in order to make it easier to coordinate the water infrastructure and the street repairs, thus eliminating the waste that happens when we don't coordinate though. So on our list of 2021 East Cleveland pavement and water line conditions, we note that there are 16 streets with very poor water conditions and another 18 with a total of 34 that are either very poor or poor. And most of those also have fair to poor street conditions, thus meaning that we're going to have to address those in the relatively near future, presumably. And I have seen no real evidence that these are evaluated before the repairs take place. Some of these are fairly significant streets: Shaw, Hayden. Those are some of the bigger ones that are listed in this one area that I'm looking at. So what I was hoping for really was presence of the finance director and Mr. Leach in order to coordinate this and assure that there is not this continued waste in the future. At any rate, at this point in time, I would like to introduce Keisha Chambers, who helps us coordinate and fund with the Cleveland Water Department. And I'd like it if you would just start with an introduction of your role, what you've been doing, and what you would like to, how you can see us improving the situation. Sure. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. As Councilor Blowiak mentioned, my name is Keisha Chambers. I work with OHM Advisors, and in this capacity, I serve as East Cleveland City Engineer. We have definitely come through and made some efforts to try to get a good understanding of the current conditions of the infrastructure in East Cleveland. So we've conducted a citywide pavement condition rating sheet, and that is what Councilor was referencing. And we've also worked with Cleveland Division of Water to get a water line assessment and understanding of the condition of all of the water lines. We use that information then to prioritize what street, what water line, if we can do both at the same time, but we use that as a prioritization, at least a first step in prioritizing the work that should be done. But to take that to another level, I've also been working with the finance director, Charles Ayahan, the director of building and housing, Melbourne Leach, as well as the law director, Willie Hemmons, to see how we can do a more robust prioritization matrix and include in that matrix some components as far as safety, customer or constituent complaints, just overall deterioration. So we want to make this prioritization process a little more robust. And we've started to develop spreadsheets and try to see how we can track this as well. But from the very onset, we have made sure that we prioritize projects so we don't have these instances of where we do a street and then the water line has to be replaced. We had one instance with Euclid Avenue, and that was definitely a matter of some internal conditions that were going on at the same time that didn't allow us to best coordinate that work as possible. But see, we are still moving forward to making sure that we can get those water lines replaced, even though the road has been done. So we do keep this in mind. It becomes an issue, not just for Cleveland or East Cleveland, it is an issue for multiple municipalities on how to best coordinate the work. The infrastructure was not always installed at the same time, so the infrastructure does not deteriorate nor does it break at the same time. So trying to make sure that we can get as close to the end of life for each infrastructure before we do these repairs. A lot of times, some of these repairs end up being emergency repairs that you cannot necessarily plan for, but we do our best to make sure that we account and adjust for the conditions that are in place and try to make sure that we do time this infrastructure as best we can based on the information that we currently have.
One of the things that I've noticed here is that there are 5 areas on Hayden Avenue that are very poor and an additional 3 that are poor. And Hayden Avenue is one that I certainly get a lot of resident complaints about. And having driven down Hayden, I can understand that that is a significant issue there. Has there been any discussion of repairing Hayden? And if so, under what kind of timeline and cost?
Yeah, absolutely. We're fortunate to have received funding from Cleveland Water to replace the water lines under Hayden Avenue. The project limits are from Eddy up to Woodworth, and we're doing it in sections based on the actual water line conditions. So it won't be 100%, like all of the water lines along that stretch will not be replaced, but those have been identified in poor condition will be replaced. And I can definitely share additional details of what those limits are, but the overall project limits are from Eddy to Woodworth.
I'm sorry, do you know whether that includes the entire 8 that are listed as very poor and poor?
Are you looking at the pavements? Are you speaking to the pavements? Or are you speaking to the water
I'm
line?
looking at the water condition.
So if it is the water conditions,
is considered very poor to poor.
Yeah, so that's for Cleveland Water. So if what you're looking at is between Eddy and Woodworth, then yes, that has been addressed in our funding from Cleveland Water to replace those water lines. So
I don't know whether it's from Hayden, from Eddy to Woodworth, from this sheet.
Okay. Are you looking at a spreadsheet or are you looking at a map?
I'm looking at a spreadsheet.
Okay. Is it color coordinated? What colors are on that spreadsheet that I can probably help determine which one it is?
The one I have is not color coded. It's coded. It's printed because I can't look at you in the Zoom meeting
Okay.
and the spreadsheet at the same time. So I printed it up, and it's listed from very poor at the top, and then it goes down, and there are about 20 pages, shall we say, approximately.
So what you're looking at, and when you see the poor, fair to poor, very poor, is the pavement condition.
No, what I'm looking at is the water condition. On the left side of the spreadsheet is water condition. That's very poor to poor. On the next column over lists pavement condition.
Okay, that's the combined.
Very good, some are poor, some are good, some are fair to poor. But the left column, which is the one I'm focusing on because I'm talking to you, is the water condition.
Okay, so if you see that it's in red and it's on Hayden, then yes, we've addressed that with Cleveland Water, and that is included in this funding that we've received. I don't have that one pulled up either, but going from memory, those locations we do address. And so what we want to do, speaking to what you were addressing before, is making sure that we combine this work. We're now going out for funding to do the road resurfacing. So that will require applications to different funding sources to identify that money. So then we can do this at the same time. So we will replace the water lines and then resurface the road at the same time.
So in addition to the community development block grant funding that we get on a regular basis from HUD, what other sources of funding are you requesting?
We've been going for OPWC, Ohio Public Works Commission, and they distribute, like your gas tax. So this is what your gas taxes go toward. They go towards road resurfacing and repair project, bridges, water lines, sewer lines. They go to infrastructure project support. And we submitted Hayden for this last round of applications, and we were just a few, tenths, hundredths of a point off from actually receiving those funds. So we will apply again the next round. And we're also looking for other revenues of funding for this project as well.
The other fairly main streets in those first 34, the worst 34 of the water conditions, 5 of them are on Shaw. Is that another one that you're addressing at this point in time?
Yes, Shaw, we are anticipating, it is in design now. We are anticipating construction beginning at the end of the year. And at this point, it really depends on material supply. We were greatly impacted by the pandemic and the supply chain as far as our water line resources. And so beginning will be contingent on getting those supplies. But Shaw Avenue is in design now. We were able to receive money from Cleveland Division of Water. We are also possibly applying OPWC funds and community development block grant funds. OPWC is Ohio Public Works.
I'm sorry, that's the one you just mentioned.
And we did receive some funding option for that administration and Director Leach will have to explore.
Given the, I would say, urgency on these very poor ones, has there been discussion of using ARPA funds?
We have not necessarily explored ARPA funds because we do have some other options that we can use. I mean, we're looking at some of those options like appropriations from our state congressperson and state senator. So we are looking at some of those, and we will try to let those ARPA funds help some of these other citywide issues because they are these buckets here for infrastructure work that have been in place and that we know that we can access. So we want to just make sure we access those and let ARPA be possibly for funds that typically the city might not be able to easily access for local projects.
Okay, so you have approached Senator Yuko and Representative Smith on some of these other
For Brown, there was discussion with Chantel Brown as well as Sherrod Brown from assistance for some infrastructure work in East Cleveland. Not necessarily those streets, but for some infrastructure work in East Cleveland.
Okay, so when you had said state senator and state rep, I was assuming you're our Ohio senator.
Oh, right. I do know that the mayor has spoken with the Ohio representatives. I have not been involved in those conversations, but I know he has been in relation to infrastructure projects.
Okay, Brown and Brown. I'm just writing my notes on here. So let me just assure myself, we have these 16 streets that are very poor. A lot of them, as I had said before, were either Shaw or Hayden, but one would think that the very poor streets, that's Pontiac Baldwin, Forest Hill Avenue, Northfield, 133rd and Elwood. Are we working specifically on those also, since we're?
So let me speak to Forest Hill. Forest Hill, we currently have a water line project that will be beginning, and that portion from Superior to Idlewood will replace the water line as well as resurface the road. We are looking at the next section of Forest Hill from Idlewood, then down to the end through another project and utilizing some additional funds. That was a part of the approach to Congresswoman Brown and Senator Brown to fund some of that work.
I'm well familiar with the poor condition of Forest Hill Avenue at the end of Farmington, because that's a street that I drive every day. Yep. And I cannot make a reasonable turn off of Farmington onto Forest Hill because I have to dodge that that depression, and it's absolutely, positively unacceptable.
So we put in, application and put in an ask for that. Northfield and Pontiac, we trying to coordinate with the sewer district there. So with those streets, we're going to do a study of the sewer in that area. We are proposing to do a study of the sewer in that area. So we will be applying for funds from the sewer district for that. That too will inform us of the infrastructure conditions, and hopefully as we do the stormwater work, we'll also be able to do the water line work and the road resurfacing work. So that we're putting together in a kind of a package of work. Baldwin, I have not begun an investigation on Baldwin. I think the other one you said is 131st Street.
133rd.
133rd. Have not started investigation on that one either.
Okay, not begun. Okay, so this has been a discussion which I found very useful, of the things starting with the very poor water condition. The next concern I would have, though, is when we plan a street repair, do we then also look into the status of the water infrastructure? Maybe it's not the worst, but it's something that's not so far from the worst. That's maybe in the fair range. There are a lot of things, for example, along Euclid that are fair. And do you have an understanding of how much at risk those areas are? As I said, there's so many of them, and some of them are on relatively small side streets, and I wouldn't put something that's water infrastructure fair even on the list to think about for a side street. But when we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 segments on Euclid Avenue that are in that range, what would you say is the relative risk of those? And then we also have the same thing on Superior. And I'm not sure whether this area on Superior is part of the road that has just been fixed, or whether it's part of the road that is promised to be fixed this year because it didn't get done in the last segment of repairs. So then I'm speaking of the southern end of Superior, where the road conditions are still horrible. And I put many of those areas well below the poor range. But they presumably are in the area where the water infrastructure is considered fair.
Mm-hmm. So for that, we take a strong lead from Cleveland Water, and they can help us to better make those determinations on whether that needs to be replaced. We didn't do that for that Superior project because they were in fair condition. And typically, unless there have been a lot of breaks in that area, it doesn't arise a concern to necessarily need to go through and replace the entire water line. So we didn't see the urgency for that particular road section. But for Euclid, yes, there is a concern.
Have you looked at the rest of the Superior that is supposed to be repaired this year, the part of Superior up to the Cleveland Heights border that did not get done and has
right, and Cleveland Water considers those roads in good condition. I mean, excuse me, those water lines in good condition, but we can definitely have them go back and if they want to, if there's any updated information we can glean from them, we can try to do that and see if they want to do any repairs prior to, but per their conditions assessment, that area is in good condition. Those water lines are in good condition.
It says here that it's fair.
From Euclid up to Cleveland Heights is the blue line. It's a blue line on the map. It's a blue line.
Yeah, I don't have the map in front of me. I have the spreadsheet, and what I'm looking at doesn't tell me clearly.
If I can share screen, I have the map up on it.
That would be great.
Slide I can share. But I'm okay. Thank you. So here is a map showing the waterline conditions for East Cleveland. Blue, blue means that they are in good condition.
I don't know about anybody else, but I don't have I lost your screen entirely, and it now just says Zoom United.
Oh, it's not showing my screen.
They're your back.
Yeah, it didn't show my screen
at all.
No,
I saw your screen fine.
Yes,
I saw your screen.
Councilor Ernest Smith. Who else saw it? Ms. Fitzpatrick, did you see it?
Yes, I could see it.
Okay, and Zaki.
I saw it for just a second and then it disappeared.
Okay, try again, Keisha. I do have you. Yeah, I saw it fine, hon.
I don't have that, Tracy.
Well, you're on the phone.
Yeah, I'm on the phone.
But it's okay. We can see it fine. But it'll be recorded, Councilor Bohoviac, so we can always go back and see the recording.
Yeah, I see it now. It's here now.
So here are the colors for the ratings: very poor, poor, fair, good, excellent. And so you see that excellent is blue, green is good. And what's the other one? Yellow is fair. So Superior shows to be in excellent condition from where they will do the the resurfacing project from Euclid up to Cleveland Heights border. Now
wonderful, then we don't need to worry on that one.
Right. And Fair, we prioritize that differently. So if the water line is fair, but the road is poor, we will work with Cleveland Water to do like another assessment of that area. Maybe conditions have changed since they did the mapping. And then we can prioritize based on what information we get from Cleveland Water as far as doing that repair. Maybe some water line repairs they will want to do prior to that resurfacing while that road is open, and we'll take advantage of that at the time.
Councilor Charles is online now. I can see him.
Wonderful.
So for Euclid, as I was mentioning for Euclid, yes, we were trying to do the coordination. We were making an effort to do the water line work prior to the road being resurfaced by ODOT. And we just kind of fell into some, like I said, some internal as well as resource issues and constraints that did not allow us to get that done prior to the road being resurfaced. And since that was an ODOT project, we were on ODOT's schedule, and they had it to where the road was going to be done at a certain time, and we could not get ahead of that to do the water line repair. So we will be going back and trying to do those water line repairs. Unfortunately, yes, it does mean that we will be disrupting portions of the road that have already been in place, but we've already had one example near Chapman where the water line burst anyway, and infrastructure is going to do what infrastructure is going to do. We like to get ahead of it instead of those emergency breaks happening. So we will be going through and trying to go ahead and do those repairs. It is also a matter of additional funding to have it done this way. So we are out seeking additional funds for that too.
While we discuss Euclid, there's a major problem on Euclid that in many places, even though there are 4 lanes, there are only 2 that are really easily usable because of the issue with, I think it's 56 RTA stops. And the area in front of the RTA stop really should have been dealt with before the winter set in. I discussed this with the mayor, because as you're aware, when the water gets in and then it freezes, then the disruption gets worse. The holes get worse. So are you involved also with finding funding to repair, doing any even temporary repairs in front of the approximately 56 RTA stops? I know the mayor said
that is an RTA owned infrastructure, so to say, because those concrete pads are at certain specifications per RTA. They're rated for their buses. They're put concrete pad there because as buses stop, you don't want them to, displace asphalt, which cause those humps in the road. So that's why they have placed those concrete pads, and RTA will be making those, doing those coordinations with municipalities as far as making those repairs to those bus pads.
I had understood from the mayor that he was in discussion about having them replaced, but as far as a temporary issue, just to even partially fill those holes so that the street is fully usable instead of having to skip 2 entire lanes.
That is something we can try to coordinate with RTA on, absolutely.
I have not up to this point heard from the mayor that there was really any attempt to coordinate on repairs, but only on replacement. And replacement, I would assume, would not happen this year just because of the normal delays of discussion and preparation and funding and whatever. But I would think that there could be some sort of temporary something done to make those areas.
I'll have to look into it. I can't speak on the bus pads. I'm not familiar with their approach, but we can look into it.
Yeah, it's certainly a major issue for many of us who drive on Euclid on a regular basis. So when you start dealing with, well, for example, you had said you had spoken with Senator and Representative Brown.
I did not speak with them. We had some partners in some of these projects, and they spoke on our behalf through the county, and they made recommendations for these projects.
Okay, so that makes it sound to me as if the delay would probably be long. No,
can I hear you? No. They asked a question.
Now, Charles, I can't hear you. One moment, Counselor. Speak again. Let me see if we can hear you. No, the box isn't even lighting up when you speak.
Okay,
try talking now. It just lit up. Talk again. No, I can't hear you now. What did you just do? No, for a moment we could hear you.
I couldn't.
Their box lit up. When you talk, your box lights up. No, can't hear anything. You're not lit up, the box. You definitely have your mic shut off.
Is he the one that's listed as 908554?
Yes, you should be able to see them if you look. I can see Charles.
Yeah, I see them, but when I look on that, it says that they're not muted.
Right, well, they were for a moment, but when they speak, Counselor, when people speak, like you'll see my box is lit up around the edges. So whoever's talking at that point in time, the box will light up, which everybody should be able to hear them. Well, they're still playing. They'll get it fixed eventually, Counselor.
It's technology is wonderful, except when it isn't.
Yes.
And at the moment, it's at the one that isn't. So what I was saying before to you, Ms. Chambers, and I wasn't sure whether you were responding that you couldn't hear me or responding that you were disagreeing with me, but I was wondering about what you might think would be a possible lag time if you're dealing with the Senator Brown or Representative Brown.
Well, for our request, the timing was pretty good, and they were responsive from my understanding because we were working through the county. And so the county was in direct connection with, oh goodness, I think they were the lobbyist. And so there was a kind of a direct communication to the people managing and directing and advising on the process. So we were able to make sure that our application addressed all their questions, was, included the information that they needed. Now on the back end, how long it will take to hear back from them, I'm not sure of what that is. They did mention a time, I just don't recall what it is, but they have committed to let us know. It might have been August, but I'm not certain.
Okay, so if things go really well, we could do something next year.
Yes, we could even start at least on design this year, and it'll be ready for install construction next year.
Okay, so that's great. Is the administration able to talk yet?
I don't even see them right now. I mean, they're still online, but.
Yeah. Because when I had the idea of discussing all this together, one of my concerns to be addressed was the pothole situation. and I'm really not getting any sense of how we are approaching the pothole situation. And Tracy, while I think of it, you're still yellow and I'm not, even though I'm speaking. So the yellow box thing is not.
Okay.
No, you're yellow. I see you as yellow. When
yeah,
you
when
just
you
spoke.
speak, yeah, probably the rest of us see you. You don't see yourself.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just interesting to understand how the technology works.
I'm wondering if it has to do with the type of window system that's running at the time with Zoom. If it's, you know, like if you have 7-point or 11-point. I look at it, as long as it works and we can record and, you know, we can see it, people's faces, we're doing good right now.
Okay, well, while we don't have the administration, who I do have some questions for, my next thing is whether either of the council members have anything that they would like to ask or say.
Councilor Martin, do you have anything? Go ahead.
I have a couple of things. Ms. Chambers, how are you?
Great, how are you doing?
Okay, good for you to be with us. I wanted to ask you about the, you say the Superior and Euclid is going to be taken, I know it's going to be taken care of in the next few months, but basically it's in decent condition. Is that what you're saying?
The water lines are.
Right. So if we do the work, are we going to have the water line situation taken care of before we start paving and that type of thing?
Based on the condition ratings that we've received from Cleveland Division of Water, there is no work to be done on those water lines. They consider them to be in good condition, so they don't need to be replaced or repaired. They don't have a high break rate for those water lines, so there's nothing for us to consider or to do for those water lines.
Thank you very much. Now, my concern, one of my top concerns, Keisha Chambers, is Hayden Avenue. We've got to get some support on Hayden. I don't know if we get now after some of those involved, but Hayden is a major issue as far as I'm concerned. The streets are in poor condition. Traveling east and west on Hayden is an issue. So you mentioned that you had you're going to do some work on that from Eddie Road to Woodworth. Is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay, so how are we looking with that this summer?
Did you say this summer? It won't be done this summer. So we were able to obtain water line replacement funds for Hayden from Eddie to Woodworth. What is good about using multiple pots of money, because you can use one pot to leverage the next. So we have this Cleveland Division of Water funding. We're using that then to approach OPWC for funds to do the actual road resurfacing. If we show that we have any type of matching funds or funds that we can already apply to that project, then that helps us to get more points and thus be awarded the road resurfacing project. Now, unfortunately, with our last grant application, we were only off by like 0.4 hundredths of a point. Like we were right in contention, but we just didn't have, that extra amount to get us to an award. Shaw was awarded with some funds. So we will apply again, but in addition to using OPWC as a resource, we're also looking for other potential funding resources for Hayden to do that road resurfacing work. But having the water line funding in place just definitely helps us to leverage as we move forward to seek additional funds for Hayden. So Hayden is at the top of the list, as well as Shaw. Shaw is currently in design. So we're looking for Shaw to begin construction this year. Now, I did mention that it's contingent of getting the water line pipes. We've had an issue with the supply chain. So we are anticipating that those pipes that have been ordered will be delivered. Well, we're anticipating that hopefully we can go out to bid in August and we'll be able to have all the supplies that we need at that time to possibly even begin the water line work and the complete the water line, and then move into road resurfacing for Hayden and have that done by the end of the year. But we are kind of dependent on this supply chain. But that is the schedule that we've laid out. But for Hayden, we are out here looking for funding for Hayden so we can get that complete and make sure that it is a dual project. So we are doing the water lines first, and then we'll come back and do the road resurfacing.
Now, the Ohio Public Works Commission, are we able to get more funding to help with this, what we're trying to do here?
That's what we're applying for. Yes. So it is application based. They open the application process once a year. During that time, we submit our projects. And we usually pick priority projects because we don't want to compete against our own selves by submitting a lot of projects. So this past year, we submitted Hayden and we submitted Shaw. Shaw received some funding. Hayden did not. So we are moving forward. We'll definitely apply again this year, right? This upcoming cycle for OPWC, but that isn't until September. In the meantime, we will look for other avenues of funding to be able to complete that road resurfacing work.
Okay. Now, I'm not sure about this, so let me ask you this so you can educate me. NOACA, do they help put down this kind of stuff we're talking about?
Yes, NOACA helps in a limited capacity as far as providing funds for road resurfacing.
Oh, we have the mayor on the phone now. Councilor Bohoviac, the mayor's on the phone as well.
Well, let's finish this part.
Hold on, Nate.
Do we get any help from NOACA with this stuff?
I was saying NOACA support is in a limited capacity. We can see what they do have available for road resurfacing. No opportunities that I have seen recently, but I can revisit that and see if something else has presented itself.
Okay, in these situations, Keisha Chambers, do you guys prioritize in terms of conditions of the street and your assessments that you do before you take on these kind of situations? You prioritize it or what?
Yes.
Okay. Tracy said that the mayor's is on now.
Yeah, he is. He's doing like what you're doing. They're having a hard time with their volume, but we can see him in front of the screen, but he's on the phone.
Okay, because I wanted him to respond to one of Blahovich's questions about the RTA situation that comes up all the time. And maybe if we can get him on. But I want to thank you for the work that you've been doing, Ms. Chambers, because I've checked you out thoroughly, and you're very qualified for what you're doing, and we're blessed to have you. We need to get this done. I thank Patricia Blahoviac for having this meeting, because we definitely been trying to get Superior done, and that's going to be done. But definitely Hayden and Shaw is a step in the right direction. We didn't get around to that, but I've been looking at Terrace too. And Terrace is another one I'd like for you guys to maybe take another look at too. So thanks for what you're doing, and keep us addressed and educated about this stuff, Ms. Chambers. Thank you very much. Okay?
Hey.
If we can just switch over for a minute to the mayor, if you can hear us, Mayor King.
Mayor King, can you hear us?
Hello, can you, yes.
Okay, we can hear you fine. Councilor Bohoviac.
Okay.
There are two questions that have been asked since, a lot of feedback there. Since the beginning of the meeting. One is relating to funds for potholes in general, and the other is relating to the status of at least temporary repairs while we wait for permanent repairs on the RTA bus pads.
deal with the
Mayor King?
potholes.
Mr. King, Mayor
So-
King? Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, yes.
Okay. So I believe your first question was in regards to potholes and patching potholes. So, as we've discussed, potholes are a function of climate change and the weather in the winter season. Northeast Ohio, everyone has potholes, some way, shape, or form. We have been filling potholes this entire fall, winter, spring season as the weather has allowed us to and as we're able to get material. So potholes are being filled. I would hope many of you who traveled on Euclid over the last 2 days have seen our crews, city service, with the RTA crews filling potholes at the bus pads.
I have not seen them, but I am pleased to know that they're there. Are they going to be addressing all of the bus pads, all of those approximately 56 bus pads?
So we had the RTA in my office maybe 2 weeks ago, and there is a plan, a strategy for addressing the RTA bus pads. Similar to what Keisha alluded to earlier, they went around and they rated the bus pads just like Cleveland Water rates the water line. And they had a system, A, B, C, D, and that way they addressed them in that fashion. Worst first, and they have, I want to say, 5 to 7 of them are slated for complete replacement. However, funding is being sought for that. And in the meantime, in the interim, we are patching those potholes with Greater Cleveland RTA.
On those 5 to 7 or on the rest of them too?
On all of them, as time and material allows us to patch the potholes.
Do you have any idea of when you will finish them?
So I actually don't have an idea of when they will be finished. I can tell you that they have started. I've seen them out there myself. I've seen a number of the bus pads filled.
That is wonderful. I
I
am so thrilled that we're making progress on those now.
So it's thank you for that. But it's something we do every year. It's just part of road maintenance throughout the year. That's all.
Yeah, it should have been done before winter and it wouldn't be this bad.
So it was done before winter, and the winter causes it to come up. You've been in Northeast Ohio a number of years.
I've lived in Northeast Ohio
It
for approximately 30 years now. And before that, I lived in Wisconsin and Minnesota.
So it may snow again in Northeast Ohio, right? We're used to the weather up here. 80 degrees one day and then snow the next day.
Okay, how about the rest of our potholes? How are we doing on addressing the rest of our potholes?
So we have been patching potholes throughout the city. A number of them on Hayden have been addressed. Hayden was pretty bad a couple weeks ago, and it is passable at this point. And we will make our way around the city. I believe right now we have, including the service supervisor, 6 or 7 people in the service department. Has been a challenge filling the vacancies over there. But we have been addressing the potholes, and we will continue to address potholes. Patching is just a temporary fix. So as we patch one, you go from 80 degrees to this, more than likely going to come right back out.
Do we have a plan for that pothole that on Mayfair that I'm told has been there for 30 years?
So I went up Mayfair and I did not see this pothole that you were mentioning. Can you give me an address that it's in front of?
Not offhand, I can come up with that, but it's only a one block segment because the other block was repaired in front of the school.
Yes, so I'm familiar with Mayfair and I traveled it since the last time we spoke. I haven't seen a 30-year pothole. Can you tell me exactly where it's at on the street?
As I said, I don't have the address in front of me. It's on the side, it's on the same side of the street as the school is, but down block. But no, I don't have the address on me.
Okay, if you can get us the address, right, or take a picture of it. I'm assuming you've seen it. Take a picture of it so we can see exactly what it is you're referring to. We'd be more than happy to take care of it.
Wonderful. I'm sure the residents who live there would be pleased because, as I said, I'm told that there's been this awful situation for 30 years. And I can't swear by the 30 years because 30 years ago, I did not drive on that street. All right, anyway. Councilor Smith, do you have any questions for the mayor while we've got him online?
Not for the mayor. Thank you, Madam Chair.
We appreciate your presence, Mayor King. That's what we have for you at the moment. We'd love it if you could hang around in case you have anything to say about any of the other things. And at this point in time, I would like to turn things back to Councilor Smith, who has some questions or statements he would like to make.
Okay,
thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Chambers, for joining us. I would just like to humbly please ask you, do you have an update for us on Savannah and Orinoco?
Yes, the contract was signed by the mayor just this week, and it will be delivered to Terrace. And once we deliver it to them, we will issue a notice to proceed. And at that point, I will be able to obtain a better schedule for you. But the contracts have been signed for them to begin work.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for joining us.
And if I may jump off too, I actually have a 12 o'clock.
Pardon?
I have a 12 o'clock, so we closing, can I?
I really appreciate all of your information, your willingness to be here. I think it's terrific. And thank you very much for coming.
All right, no problem. You guys have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Then do we have any comments or questions from the public at this point in time? Ms. Fitzpatrick, I see you're here. Mr. Rashid, do either of you have anything you'd like to say about this process, this meeting, anything relating to streets, water infrastructure, pothole repair, etc.?
I just have a question. What organization is Ms. Chambers with? Because she's very knowledgeable and professional, and it's very refreshing to know that someone like that is working on our behalf in this projects, because obviously we all know the conditions of the street, and I know a lot of that is weather related because of where we are, but that lady really seems to be right on in terms of her knowledge about this processes. What organization is she with?
I know it's called OHM. I really don't have in front of me what OHM stands for. She's apparently functioning as our city engineer. She is seeking grants. She's discussing she's a wonderful intermediary, as I can see it, between the city and the Cleveland Water and getting funding for the roads in addition. And I've been very impressed with everything other than that it took so long to get us together in the same meeting. But other than that, I am very pleased.
I can totally agree with you. And the other question that I had, and maybe we may not have the total answer to this, but is the city required to participate in the funding of these repairs on the streets? And if so, are we budgeting for it? And how would we do that without having, is the city required to participate in the funding of these projects?
As I understand it, it varies from grant to grant, and some grants require city participation and others don't. Perhaps the mayor might have an additional comment on that.
Because I know that if that is in fact the case, we should have some sort of a contingency fund to be prepared to participate so that we don't lose these projects if in fact we are required to participate. But that was just a question because I know there's a lot of different funding sources that she mentioned she had to work with in order to, acquire all the funds to complete the projects. But I was just curious about that part. But that's all I have. But thank you so much for holding the meeting. It's very informative, and I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you very much for being here. I'm most grateful. Ms. Fitzpatrick also is here. Do you have anything you'd like to say at this point in time? Somebody's on the chat. OHM Advisors is what we have, and there's a website, Mr. Rashid, www.ohm-advisors.com.
So we actually hire her. The city has engaged in a contract with her to do this work for us? Because whoever did that and brought her into the equation, it was just an excellent choice. That lady is very knowledgeable about what's going on. And I feel confident that we're going to be able to actually do the things that she discussed, because she seems to be on point on every area and every aspect of it. She's a total pro.
Every time I ask a question, she had a credible response to it.
Agreed.
The things that I am most concerned about, she was completely on top of. The things that I personally am concerned on that are not quite such extreme examples, she talked about also, and I was, as you are, I was very impressed. So does anyone else have anything they would like to say at this point in time? Mayor, is that you speaking? There's somebody in the background who I can't hear, and I can't tell who it is, and I can't tell what they're saying. So if there is a person trying to say something, could you check to make sure your audio is working appropriately, and if not, put something in the chat. Otherwise, I will assume that maybe it was background noise from someone talking to someone else. And unless I hear of anyone else, Councilor Smith, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just want to thank you for a great meeting. It was a great way for yourself as well as myself and for all the residents to get updated. We actually been dealing with Keisha Chambers and OHM Advisors for a couple of years now, and very, very great resource, as you all stated. Again, Councilwoman Dr. Pat LaHope, I really want to thank you for a great meeting. I really want to thank the residents of East Cleveland for getting up this early in the morning for joining us. We know these type of situations cause, we have to do what we have to do. So thank you.
And thank you for your participation. And unless I hear otherwise, I'll give you about a minute. And at that point in time, we will close the meeting. And thank you, counselors, for attending. Thank you, Tracy, for dealing with the technology. Thank you, everyone else, for showing up. And at this point, I will close the meeting. Again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Tracy, I'm trying to copy the information you sent about Keisha, and I'm not.
I can just send it to you, counselor. If you look at that OHM, that WW website I sent right above that information, that's the link that'll take you right to that page of hers that gives the description.
Wonderful.
Yeah, she's really qualified. It was really a well read background on her. So I thought everybody would enjoy it.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you very much. And bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.